When I was 6, my family left me alone on a mountain trail. You're not our real child, learn to survive on your own, they said, smiling. 15 years later, they walked into my office and said, she's our only daughter, our pride. The receptionist looked at me. I just shook my head in silence. The morning sunlight filtered through the lace curtains into the old single-story house. The Harper family's small home, located on the edge of a residential area in the suburbs of Applewood, Michigan, had begun to bear the weight of years, just like the other houses in town. Inside, 6-year-old Erin Harper sat on a worn-out sofa, drawing something in a notebook with well-used colored pencils. Erin, are you listening to what I said? Carol called sternly from the kitchen. She pushed back the brown hair stuck to her forehead while adjusting her oil-splattered apron. Wash the breakfast dishes and then clean up Danny's toys before he wakes up. Yes, Mama, Erin answered in a small voice, carefully putting her precious drawing in the table drawer. Her brown hair was parted in two and braided, but several strands had escaped. Wearing an old blue dress that didn't fit her properly, Erin quietly headed to the kitchen. She let out a small sigh at the sight of the pile of dishes in the sink. Though they were just within her reach, it was always a difficult task for Erin. She pulled over a chair to stand on and began working when she heard the front door open. Someone's home. Thomas's cheerful voice rang out. He owned an auto repair shop, but with the recent recession, business had become difficult. That shadow appeared on his face too, with a constant hint of worry mixed into his once cheerful demeanor. Daddy? 4-year-old Daniel burst out of the bedroom and hugged his father's legs. Thomas lifted his son high and spun him around. Well now, my little engineer is already awake. Look what I brought you. Thomas pulled a small toy car from his pocket. The brand new miniature car gleamed in the morning light. This is the latest model. I saved it just for you. Daniel cheered as he received the new toy. Watching from the kitchen, Erin stared at her brother's joy-filled face, wondering if she had ever been treated the same way. She couldn't remember. Thomas, were you shopping during work hours? Carol said with a thin smile. Another new toy. You don't need to spend so much on him. It's fine. Thomas winked at his wife. Our successor deserves first-class things. He'll take over Harper Auto someday. Erin heard those words as she wiped the dishes. Successor. Something inside her shrank. Since Daniel was born, her presence in the house had been fading. Daniel always got new clothes. Daniel had big birthday parties. When she brought home a report card with A's, she received barely a nod from her parents. Erin, haven't you finished the dishes yet? Carol peered into the sink. How long are you going to take? When you're done, clean up Danny's room. He's left his toys scattered everywhere. Erin nodded silently. She knew it was pointless to resist. For a long time she had felt something was wrong. When visiting friends' houses, she saw parents treating their children equally. At Emily's house, both Emily and her brother were hugged the same way. But not at the Harper house. In the evening, Erin was mopping the kitchen floor. Her parents were watching TV in the living room after dinner. Daniel had long been asleep. Suddenly she caught bits of conversation from the living room. There's nothing more I can do. Thomas's voice sounded tired. The bank won't extend the loan. We're behind on taxes, and also what are we going to do? Carol's voice was trembling. We might need to consider cutting back. Her father's voice was low and heavy. As long as this recession continues, I don't think I can support a family of 4. But Carol's voice broke. Danny is still so young. Yes. After a long silence, Thomas said, there might be another way. Erin froze, still clutching the mop. She understood what it meant. Even at 6, she could understand that she was the target of the cutting back. A few days later, something unusual happened. Carol called Erin and spoke to her with a smile. Erin, we've decided to go hiking as a family this weekend, Carol said in an unusually gentle voice. I'll take you to a special place. A beautiful spot in the mountains. I'm coming too? Erin asked anxiously. Of course. You're 6 years old now. You're big enough. Carol's smile had something strange about it. Look at this. Carol pulled out a paper bag. Inside were new hiking shoes. Erin's eyes widened. New shoes? For her? For me? Erin asked timidly. Yes, for you. You need good shoes to walk mountain trails. That night, Erin slept with her new hiking shoes by her pillow. She hadn't received anything new from her parents in years. Could this be the beginning of something special? She fell asleep dreaming of the hiking day, hope in her heart. At midnight, when Erin got up to go to the bathroom, she passed by her parents' bedroom. The door was slightly open, and she could hear voices from inside. This is okay, right? It was Thomas's voice. We won't have to worry about her anymore, right? Yes, Carol answered. This is the best way. We can't bear any more burden. Erin stopped and listened. She wanted to hear more, but sensing movement inside the room, she hurried back to her own bedroom. Lying in bed, she stared at the ceiling in the dim light. Hope and anxiety mingled in her chest. In the morning mist, the Harper's old station wagon headed toward the Blue Ridge Mountains. Gazing at the scenery passing by the window, Erin happily looked at her new hiking shoes. The car was unusually peaceful, with gentle country music flowing from the radio. Today will be special. Thomas smiled at Erin through the rearview mirror. I know a place with a great view. A secret place no one knows about. Erin met her father's eyes and nodded slightly. Her chest was full of mixed feelings of expectation and anxiety. Something special would happen. The conversation she'd overheard last night flashed through her mind, but was washed away by today's bright atmosphere. The family began preparing at the trailhead after parking the car in the lot. Carol took out a small camera from her backpack. Let's take a commemorative photo, she said in an unusually bright voice. Erin, stand next to Danny. Erin timidly stood beside her brother. Carol placed the camera on a nearby tree stump and set the timer. All right, everyone. Smile. With the click of the shutter, the four Harpers smiled at the mountain entrance. Erin didn't yet know this would be their last family photo. The hiking trail was initially wide and well maintained, but after walking for about an hour, Thomas suddenly turned onto a side path. Is this okay? This path isn't on the map? Carol asked in a slightly lowered voice. Don't worry, Thomas answered confidently. If we follow this path, we'll see an amazing view that no one knows about. The path became narrower and narrower, eventually looking like a game trail. Erin walked carefully, trying not to trip on tree roots. Her family moved at a faster pace than her, and gradually the distance between them increased. Mom, Dad, wait, Erin called out with a slightly panicked voice. We need to hurry before it gets dark, Carol said without looking back. Erin tried to catch up quickly but slipped on a steep slope and hit her knee hard. Tears welled up in her eyes from the pain. Ouch, she whispered, but her family had already disappeared around the bend. Erin got up, rubbing her muddy knee, and desperately followed after them. When she caught up, her family had stopped in a small clearing. Tall trees stood around them, and fallen leaves covered the ground thickly. No human voices could be heard from anywhere. Only the chirping of birds and the sound of the wind. Here it is, Carol said. There was a strange coldness in her voice. What's here? Erin asked anxiously. Thomas and Carol looked at each other, nodding as if confirming something. Carol stepped forward. Erin, she said in a calm tone, this is goodbye. Erin looked at her parents in confusion. Goodbye? What do you mean? You need to survive on your own now, Carol continued. There was a smile on her face. Terrifyingly, it looked like a genuine smile. This child is our only real child. She lifted Daniel into her arms and hugged him to her chest. Daniel, not understanding the situation, looked at his sister with a puzzled expression. A boy is enough, Thomas said coldly. We can't afford to raise a girl. Especially now. Erin's world collapsed. Her brain refused to understand her father's words. This must be a bad joke. Soon they would say, just kidding, and everyone would laugh and go home. You're joking, right? Erin said in a trembling voice. Mom, Dad. But her parents' expressions didn't change. Carol averted her eyes from Erin, and Thomas adjusted his backpack on his shoulder. Let's go, Thomas said to Carol and Daniel. We need to get back before dark. Don't go, Erin cried and ran to her parents. She tried to grab Thomas's arm, but he shook her off. Please don't leave me, Erin begged through tears. I'll be good. I'll wash all the dishes. Shut up, Thomas said in an irritated voice. That's enough. You're staying here. Carol turned back one last time and smiled faintly. Goodbye, Erin. And the three of them began to head back the way they came. Erin, bleeding from her knee, desperately tried to follow them. But when Thomas glared at her and stepped forward threateningly, she stopped in fear. Don't follow us. His voice was low and menacing. If you follow, I'll take you deeper into the forest where you'll never get out. Erin stood frozen. There was a coldness in her father's eyes she had never seen before. It was an order and a threat. She trembled as she watched her family disappear into the forest. Mom, Dad. Her small voice was lost in the rustling of leaves blown by the wind. In the forest growing dim, 6-year-old Erin Harper was left all alone. She just stood there, unable to accept the reality that she was truly alone. Erin Harper? A gentle voice called her name. Erin woke up in a room surrounded by white walls and looked up at a woman standing by her bed. A nurse's badge reflected the fluorescent light. Where? Erin's throat was dry, and her voice was hoarse. The hospital, sweetie, the nurse smiled softly. A hiking couple found you in the forest. They were very worried about you. All the memories rushed back at once. The mountain trail, her parents' cold smiles, the words, this is goodbye. Tears welled up in Erin's eyes. Mom and Dad. The nurse's expression clouded. The police are looking for them. But the place where you were found was very remote. How did you end up in such a place? Erin was at a loss for words. If she told the truth, would they believe her? Could adults understand that her parents had abandoned her? I got lost, she said in a small voice. For the next few weeks, Erin stayed at a child welfare facility. The police were searching for her parents as missing persons, but she knew they wouldn't come back. Still, in a corner of her heart she believed, they'll regret it and come back for me. Erin, there's someone here to see you. Janet, the social worker, poked her head into her small room. Beyond the door stood a couple with warm smiles. The woman was in her mid-50s with kind eyes. The man was about the same age, with a quiet dignity about him. Hello, Erin, the woman spoke gently. I'm Beth Morrison. This is my husband, Steve. Erin nodded silently. Several adults had come to meet her before, but they were all the same. They looked at her with pitying eyes and then left. But the Morrisons were different. They visited every week, talked with Erin, read books, and sometimes went out. 2 months later, Janet told Erin with a happy face, "The Morrisons hope to become your foster parents. What do you think?" Erin's feelings were complex. The Morrisons were kind, but she was still afraid to open her heart. However, compared to living in the facility, yes, she nodded slightly. On her first night at the Morrison home, Erin was shown to her own room. Light blue walls, white furniture, and small potted flowers by the window. "Do you like it?" Beth asked, gently stroking her hair. "If there's anything missing, just let me know." Erin looked around the room. "All of this is mine?" "Of course," Beth smiled. "This is your place. I hope it becomes a place where you feel safe." That night, Erin was haunted by nightmares. She dreamed of being abandoned in the mountains, her parents disappearing. She screamed and woke up. Immediately the door opened and Beth rushed in. "It's okay, Erin," she gently embraced Erin. "I'm here. You're not alone anymore." The nightmares repeated almost every night, but each time Beth comforted and protected her in the same way. Slowly, the ice in Erin's heart began to melt. When Erin returned to elementary school, she began to show talent in mathematics. Numbers never betrayed her. When her teacher noticed her talent and told Steve and Beth, they proudly praised her. "That's amazing, Erin," Beth said as she pinned her test results to the refrigerator. "I'm amazed by how smart you are. Your talent is special." Steve lightly patted her shoulder. "Cherish it." For Erin, this was a fresh experience, being recognized for her worth, being praised, being loved, but the trauma of the past didn't disappear easily. Occasionally, anxiety would surface. Do they really want me? As a teenager, Erin joined the business club in high school. "If you like working with numbers, business is perfect for you," her teacher had recommended. There, she found a new way to use her talent. "College is just a year away," Steve brought up the topic during dinner one evening. "Where do you want to go?" "I'm not sure yet," Erin shrugged. About to turn 18, she still wasn't confident about her future. "We'll support you wherever you go," Beth said gently. "You can go to wonderful places." A few weeks later, a letter arrived for Erin. It was a scholarship offer from the University of Chicago's business school. "I can't believe it," Beth exclaimed. "Erin, this is amazing, really." Erin stared at the letter. Did she really have such value? "Of course," Steve said, his voice choking up. "You have a special talent. And above all, you've worked hard. We're proud of you, Erin." During her 4 years at college, Erin studied intensively. Business strategy, marketing, finance, she absorbed it all. In her final year before graduation, she started a small web design company. The business that began in her dorm room had grown to employ 5 freelancers, and college president called her name and she walked onto the stage. From the audience came the proud applause of Beth and Steve. After graduation, Erin stayed in Chicago and officially established Harper Solutions. Her first office was small, but her creative business approach quickly gained a reputation. In her late 20s, her company was growing rapidly. The number of employees exceeded 50, and annual sales were steadily increasing. At 32, Erin was selected as one of Forbes's 40 women entrepreneurs to watch. "That's wonderful, Erin," Beth expressed her joy over the phone after the interview. "We're always supporting you." "Thank you, Mom," Erin smiled. She rarely called Beth Mom, only in special moments. As a successful businesswoman, Erin was confident. However, in her private life she was still afraid of building intimate relationships. There had been many encounters, but when they progressed to serious relationships, she was overcome with anxiety. The fear that I'll eventually be abandoned always whispered in her heart. On the surface, Erin Harper was strong, successful, and confident, but deep in her heart, that 6-year-old girl still lived there. That girl filled with fear and confusion, left alone in the mountains. "So we've reached an agreement, Miss Harper." In the conference room of Harper Solutions on the 58th floor of a Chicago skyscraper, Erin shook hands with a new client. The magnificent view of Lake Michigan spread outside the window, and the early summer sunlight brightly illuminated the room. "It's an honor to do business with you." The executive of a long-established pharmaceutical company stood up, putting documents into his briefcase. "The board will be pleased to work with such an innovative consulting firm as yours." "The pleasure is mine," Erin responded with a smile. At 32, she had grown into a confident, beautiful woman. Dressed in a sharp gray suit, her brown hair was neatly arranged at her shoulders. "I'm happy to assist during your company's transition period." After the clients left the conference room, Michael Chen, Erin's most trusted subordinate, approached her. "A great success, boss," he applauded with a smile. "The biggest contract this year, let's toast to it." Erin nodded and called out to the remaining staff. "Everyone, let's celebrate today's success. Gather in the lounge." As champagne corks popped and a pleasant atmosphere of celebration spread, Erin quietly savored her satisfaction. Harbor Solutions had grown into a company with an annual revenue of $50 million and over 100 employees. Her unique consulting methods were highly regarded in the industry, and she was frequently featured in economic magazines like Forbes and Business Week. Erin, Jessica, her assistant, lightly tapped her shoulder. "When you return to your office, there's a call from reception." "Is something wrong?" Erin frowned slightly. "There are visitors, people without appointments." Jessica hesitated a bit. "They say they're your parents." The blood drained from Erin's face. Her hand holding the glass trembled, spilling a little champagne. "My parents?" On her way to the office reception, Erin's mind was in turmoil. Parents? That's impossible. Her parents were the Morrisons. Or with trembling hands, she rubbed her cheeks and took a deep breath. "Stay calm," she told herself. "It's a mistake. It must be someone else." When she reached reception, Jessica greeted her with an apologetic expression. "They're over there." She pointed to the waiting area. There sat an elderly couple. The man was thin, with thinning hair mixed with white, and his back was slightly hunched. The woman was slender, with deep wrinkles on her face. Both were wearing inexpensive but clean clothes. Erin stopped in her tracks. Despite 26 years having passed, she knew it was Thomas Harper and Carol Harper, the parents who had abandoned her in the mountains. "Erin." Carol called her name in a trembling voice. "You've really grown up." Erin stood frozen. She felt the curious eyes of the employees present turning toward her. "She's our pride," Carol said to Jessica at the reception. There was a slight tremor in her voice. "Our only daughter. We've been looking for you all this time," Thomas added. His eyes were tired, but there was something, was it expectation or regret, shining in them. "We finally found you." The scene from that day vividly returned to Erin's mind. Her mother embracing her brother while saying, "This child is our only real child." Her father coldly declaring, "A boy is enough." Herself left in the forest. Jessica looked at Erin. "Miss Harper." Erin quietly shook her head. "These are not my parents." Her voice was calm, but inside, an emotional storm was brewing. "Please see them out." "But, Erin," Carol stepped forward. "Please listen, please. Call security," Erin said to Jessica. Then, turning back to the couple, she added in an icy voice, "Don't come here again. Please." Thomas's voice trembled. He was no longer the frightening father in Erin's memory. Now he was just a frail old man. "I am not your daughter." Erin lowered her voice. "You decided that. 26 years ago, on that mountain." Two security guards appeared and quietly escorted the resistant elderly couple. Erin watched them leave. Carol turned back, looking at Erin with eyes full of sadness. Was there remorse in her expression? Back in her office, Erin closed the door and leaned against it. Her heart was beating wildly. A wave of emotions she had suppressed for 26 years hit her. Anger, sadness, confusion, and above all, questions. Why had they appeared now? The next day, Erin's assistant brought an envelope. It was delivered first thing this morning. Security checked it, but there's nothing dangerous inside. Erin opened the envelope and read the letter inside. "Dear Erin, I'm sorry about yesterday. We surprised you by appearing suddenly, but we had no choice. We wanted to see you, to see how well you've grown up. Please, let us talk to you. Give us a chance to explain. We're staying at a hotel. Please contact us at this number. With love, Mom." Erin crumpled the letter and threw it away. But that was just the first letter. More letters followed, and sometimes there were calls from the hotel phone. Why won't they give up? Erin stared out the window 2 weeks later, receiving yet another letter. She contacted her lawyer and instructed him to consider a restraining order against her parents. However, that afternoon one more letter arrived. This envelope was different from the others. Inside was a simple sentence and an old photograph. It only said, "We need help." The photo was the family picture taken on that hiking day. 6-year-old Erin, 4-year-old Daniel, and young Thomas and Carol. Everyone was smiling. a record of the last happy moment. Erin's hands trembled. She picked up the phone and, after hesitating for a long time, she dialed. But it wasn't her parents' hotel. It was a different number. 3 days later, Erin arrived at a conference room in a luxury Chicago hotel with her lawyer. Beth was already sitting in the corner of the room. Her warm presence gave Erin courage. The door opened, and Thomas and Carol Harper entered. Standing by the window with strong sunlight, it was striking how old they had become. Thomas in particular walked with the aid of a cane, with no trace of the scary father from before. "Erin," Carol said in a small voice, "thank you for meeting us." "What do you want?" Erin asked calmly. She was trying not to show her emotions, but her heart was racing. The elderly couple sat down and looked at each other. Thomas opened his mouth heavily. "We're in financial trouble." He looked away shamefully. "Daniel took over the company, but it didn't go well." "He has." Carol faltered. "He has problems, gambling and alcohol." Erin listened silently. Inwardly she thought, so what, but didn't show it on her face. "He ruined the factory and lost the house," Thomas continued. "Now we're living in a small apartment, surviving only on our pension." "Why did you want to see me?" Erin asked calmly. "Why now?" Carol pulled out an old newspaper clipping. "I saw your article in Forbes." Tears welled up in her eyes. "To think you'd be so successful. You want money?" Erin said sharply. "Is that why suddenly I'm your pride and only daughter?" "Erin," Thomas said in a tired voice. "We were young and ignorant back then. We had no choice." "Choice?" Erin's voice trembled. For the first time, emotion showed. Abandoning me in the mountains was a choice. "Why? Tell me the real reason." After an uncomfortable silence, Carol said in a small voice, "A boy could continue the family business, but a girl was a burden." At those words, Erin froze. Something inside her broke, but at the same time there was a feeling of release. She had finally heard the truth. "I understand." Erin slowly stood up. "I will instruct my lawyer. A small amount will be sent monthly for living expenses." Hope appeared on the faces of the elderly couple. "But there are conditions," Erin continued calmly. "Never contact me again, and Daniel must receive rehabilitation." "But, Erin," Carol began to say, but Erin raised her hand to stop her. "This is a deal, not emotion." As she was leaving, Carol approached her. "I'm not asking for forgiveness, just to let you know. We regret it." Erin stared at her. "Still, that day you were smiling." A year later, Thomas Harper died of a stroke. Erin didn't attend the funeral but sent flowers. Carol began volunteering at a local children's care facility, and Daniel chose to live honestly, working at a small repair shop while fighting his addictions. Erin established the New Beginning Scholarship. It was to support young people from foster homes. "Why this foundation?" a reporter asked her. "Because I believe true family is created by choice and love, not blood ties," Erin answered. As she said this, she looked at Beth. Beth Morrison smiled at her daughter. In her eyes shone pride and unconditional love.